and get going, y'all. So I want to say first and foremost, thank you all so much for coming to our event. We're all about continuous learning here in our meetup group, and these types of continuous learning opportunities would not be possible without Provar. If you are looking to make your Salesforce testing life easier, please check out Provar for more information. We've been making Salesforce testing easy for leaders like y'all since nearly a decade. We also have additional resources for free. So check out University of Provar. It's a great way to up-level yourself and get Provar certified. There's a lot of other great enriching courses as well. But that's my marketing hat off. Boop, boop. I'm Tristan Lombard. I'll be your mistress of ceremonies today, and I am genuinely excited for today's topic, which is the do's and don'ts of test automation. And I'm so excited to introduce our speaker today, Orane Findley, who is a manager, DevOps and test automation at QualityWorks. It's a quality-driven software testing firm that creates tools, processes, and frameworks that empower teams to develop, deliver software to increase productivity. And our Orane is passionate about quality and sharing ways to create more impactful and user-centric products. He also enjoys managing and improving software architecture and finding ways to improve processes. And he spent nearly 7 years leading teams and assisting enterprise clients in their test automation strategy and implementation. And in addition, he's also created various test automation solutions that have significantly improved the speed, quality, and efficiency of various teams and projects. And he's from Jamaica, and like, say less. He's also a dear friend of mine. So Orane, how did I do on that introduction?
That was awesome. That was great. Are you still talking about me?
I'm here to talk about you the whole time, friend. But we do have a lot of questions we want to get to. So we're gonna go ahead and do them. Are you ready for some questions?
Sure.
I love that. If anyone has any questions, drop them in the chat below, by the way. We'll do our best to get to them in the order that we can. If we don't get to them all live, Orane has been so gracious to answer some of those questions in our meetup group. So I will drop any questions we don't get to in the meetup group, but we also are about prizes here, y'all. So my colleague Tara is going to drop his LinkedIn and his Twitter. If there's something that you really took away from this that you learned, please tag him as well as Provar Testing for a chance to win some swag. I love that. All right, Orane, let's do this. And this is one of these pre-submitted questions from one of our leaders. This is from Sam, and Sam wants to know, what are some techniques that can be used to speed up the execution of your UI automation? And that's a good question, Sam.
Okay, some techniques to speed up the process of your UI automation. Okay, so a few things that I usually do. One of the most obvious ones would be like parallel testing. You definitely want to have your tests running in parallel, because at that point, then how long your test automation will take will then be dependent on your longest test, right? So everything will be running in parallel, and only your longest test will be how long your test automation takes. So that is maybe one of the first things that I would look into. Of course, you have to ensure that your tests are independent, because if they're not independent, then you're going to have a lot of issues when you're trying to run them parallelly, right? So that's the first thing that I'll maybe look at. A next great one to look at would be distributed testing. So ensuring that you're using like different cloud softwares and cloud platforms to execute your tests, because they have a lot more powerful computers that you can use. And also you don't have to worry about the version of software. So let's say if you're doing web-based testing, you don't have to worry about the updates of Chrome. You don't have to worry about updates of Node, all of that based on the application that you're running and how your tests are running. So you can specify that and have it set up very easily and very quickly using Docker, etc. So definitely parallel testing, distributed testing, and you'll find that in distributed testing, you maybe have to run your tests headlessly, right?
Can you explain for anyone who's watching a little bit more about that concept?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you have two types of browsers, right? So you have your normal browser that has a graphical user interface. So when you open it, you're able to, move your mouse around and click all the different things. But then you also have a way to execute browser or utilize the browser without any user interface, right? So it can execute the actions without actually moving a mouse or loading, the physical display, and that makes it a lot faster. And you'll find that in a lot of these distributed applications that run your tests, you'll have to run it headlessly because they don't have a graphical user interface. And I've seen where like running your tests headlessly can shave like a couple of seconds off just a few tests. So depending on how many tests you have, then you're going to shave a lot of time off those tests. Let me see. I think a great one to do as well is, so usually when I'm writing tests, let me give you guys an example. So let's say I'm writing the test for a profile page or account page to do some edits and make some changes for that user, right? Let's just say that's what I'm doing. I would have an initial test that would go through the flow of how I get to that page. So I would have, the login, clicking the different menu items and getting to that page itself. And that would be one test for me, right? But then all the following tests, I would not go through that flow over and over. So I would then go directly to the page through maybe different, like navigating directly to the link, or maybe some pages you have to go to authentication. And in that case, you might want to use cookies, which is also a good way to speed up your test. So you might want to use cookies to ensure that you are authenticating the user without actually having to log in.
And I absolutely love this, friend. And you're so brilliant. And we could do this all day. This is really, really insightful, and I appreciate you answering that question. I want to make sure we also celebrate your leadership. We've got so many people who are fans of yours here. I want to make sure we give a little bit of time, if that's all right, to a few other live questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I love this. Keith, hello.
Hello.
Keith, what questions do you have around the do's and the don'ts of test automation for this genuinely brilliant leader?
You know, we're still very, very new with Provar and finding our own pitfalls as we go along. I guess one thing I'm kind of looking for is any of those traps that new users fall into where well, gosh, don't chain 30 tests together, or don't have a test plan over X amount. Just any kind of general information on setting up your automation to begin with.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And this is indicative of any solution that y'all are using, right? Because like to quote Joe, and that's a great question, Keith, whether you're using, any kind of solution. I always love Joe Conchiano. Shout out to Joe if you're watching. It's always about, you have many different tools in your toolkit. And so I think that's a really good question around like new users, test plans, what's too much. Orane, you've worked with enterprise level leaders. What advice would you have as a new user who's adopting a new solution for our Keith?
Yeah, so that's definitely a good question. And I have seen a lot of times where persons, they use frameworks just because of the name, just because of it's new, just because, it might be able to run tests fast, and they don't think about like what is the result that they need from the framework, right? So the first thing that you need to think about is what framework to choose, but you have to have a certain thoughts in your mind when choosing that framework. So you want to think about the different platforms that you're going to run on. You want to think about maybe the speed of the framework. You want to think about how it's maintained, documentation, and you want to think about the skill base of your employees and resources that will be working on this test automation. So that is one, to ensure that you choose the right framework and don't just use it because it's a good framework, but it might not be good for you.
And this is helpful, Orane, and sorry to interrupt you. I want to make sure we get back to Keith's question around test plans, right? So you've adopted a framework, you've adopted a solution. What are some of those pitfalls once they've adopted a framework or solution? what are some of those pitfalls they need to watch out for, right? Because we're talking about the do's and don'ts of test automation. They've adopted a solution. What's something to watch out for? What are some of those pitfalls that a new user should watch out for?
Yeah, so after you have ensured that you've chosen the right framework, I think one of the things that you want to look for as well is ensure that you have a good structure when setting up your test automation. So in terms of encapsulation, separating, what data the test will use, because believe it or not, these things will speed up how you write test automation in the future, right? So having that great structure from the beginning, ensuring that you use maybe a page object module, etc., then it will definitely speed up how quickly you're able to write tests in the future. And this is done by just, let's say you have written some tests, right? And you didn't use your page object module. So you have elements and you literally paste those elements, like paste those string or selectors all over the code. Then if there's a break in the test automation or a change in an element, then replacing that selector that is maybe like 50 different places in the code is going to take a lot longer than just replacing it at one place. And I mean, this is a very simple example, but it saves so much time that persons don't really think about it in the start, but after they realize that, oh my God, this is how I have to be managing the code and it's taking so much time, they know, see the real benefit of it. But
I do love that. I love that so much. Sorry, I'm such a stage mom for you. Keith, I want to make sure, was that helpful? Do you have a follow-up clarifying question? I just want to make sure that we got
No,
your question.
no, it was. It's in fact, we're headed down that path using the. Yeah, I think that just verified that we're on the right path with some of what I've heard so far.
I love that.
Until we veer off the path, that is.
We all veer off the path at some point, Keith, and it's not just on a Wednesday.
As long as it's not hitting a tree, we're okay. We'll get back on the path again.
That part.
So I do want to add just a little bit more. So ensure that you are setting up the structure. So put a lot of work in there because it will definitely benefit you in the long run. And also think about the tests themselves. So a lot of persons focus on the framework and programming language and how to do something fancy. But a lot of times we miss thinking about how exactly we want to test this, right? Because the meat of the matter is really how effective the test is and how easily we can test something, right? Let's say we have two different elements, right? And when one is in focus, it should be bigger than the next. There might be a few things or a few styles that get added to this element, but we might not want to like go in, get the styles, get the width, get the height from the style value, and transfer that over to an integer, etc. There's a long route and there's also a shorter route, right? So just think about the test itself and how to simplify what you want to achieve.
I love that. And I friend, like, this is why you're so polished. And I can tell, I can tell how much experience you have working with leaders around the world, just like from hearing the way that you are very matter of fact. Is Julia on this call right now, by the way? Yes, she's like, yes. She's also a stage mom. I see a lot of you both here, and you're very matter of fact in how you have lists. This is why you all are literally leaders. I'm here for this. Jesper, you had a question, friend, and I want to make sure we give time for you. Can you all tell I used to teach back in the day?
Yeah.
Jesper, can you hear us okay?
Sure. Let me just bring up the video feed.
There's my DevOps Leadership Book Club friend. How are you?
Hello. It's actually still a sunny day today here where I'm at, so I hope yours will be good as well.
It's not sunny here.
So
it's always sunny when I see you.
that's good. All right. I was I was contemplating that a lot of people starting out in test automation, low-code test automation, even they write the test cases the good old-fashioned way in a test case management system. We can all name a few, and then they write the automation. Is that a do or a don't?
It's a good question.
Yeah. All right. So I tend to like that option in terms of, having some manual test cases first and then kind of building out the test automation as well. However, what I would recommend is having a test management tool that you can integrate with your test automation tools, right? So I find that that is the best trade-off for me in terms of what would work best. So you definitely want to think about testing first and not just jump straight into the automation. You do want to start early, but at least get a few cases out that you know exactly what you want to automate when you start your test automation, right? So you definitely have a few manual cases and you say, okay, I want to automate these manual cases, but then you also want to link your test automation with those manual cases so that in the future, when you're doing like a release and you need to have several test runs, you can trigger the correct statuses and stuff from your test automation itself.
That was powerful.
That taps into what you said previously around figuring out what do you want to do first and then automating it second. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's very important to identify what you want to automate first.
Or what do you want to test first, right?
Yeah. So what you want to test and then what you want to automate from what you need to test, because of course you're not going to automate everything, right?
Super, thanks.
Yes, and to quote testing love Dr. Walton, manual testing will not go away, y'all. Period. Just so we're all crystal. Okay, I love that for us. I also want to make sure we get to a few other ones here. We have another celebrity here, y'all. I love this leader. Vulcan, can you hear me okay? Y'all,
Yes, Tristan.
Hi, friend. Do you have any questions for our fearless leader here? This is like VIP moment, y'all.
Actually, I have no question now, but I'm happy.
Think about it. Think about it, because you've got some space here. We also just wanted to call and say hi. This is why I love the testing community, y'all. Like, y'all are really coming together to celebrate our Orane and also learning. So just thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. So Vulcan, we're gonna have you come back to that question. I do have some pre-submitted ones, but think about it, friend. I just wanted to shine a light on you because we see you.
Okay, sure.
I know people are like, what do you do with this love? Penny, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Penny, have you met Orane before?
Could you say that again?
Have you met Orane before?
No, I have not.
Well, welcome, Orane, Penny, Orane. Do you have any questions, Penny, for our Orane?
I don't at this time. I joined a bit late, but I've enjoyed what I've heard.
I love it. I love it. I, though, have a question, though, because to quote Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart is now available on HBO Max, by the way. You're welcome. But one of the things, Orane, that I always hear, from Brene is that when you ask people about relationships, they talk about heartbreak. When you ask people how their commute was going, they always talk about, I took the 1 to the 2 to the 3. Shout out to everyone from New York. But I want to hear about the don'ts. I want to hear about the failures. You've worked with so many clients around the world. I want to hear about the mess ups. And I promised I wouldn't cuss on this recording for YouTube. Potty mouth here. I want to hear about what's the number one don't that you keep on seeing from customers and you're like, don't do that. What's the number one? And you can give a few.
Okay. I'll definitely give a few. It's really hard to choose out number one, but I think my number one would be just unnecessary tools.
Say more.
So a lot of times I see persons using unnecessary tools that don't really benefit them. So it's a great tool, and it definitely can be used in different scenarios, but I don't see where it's benefiting them, and it makes writing tests very cumbersome.
Why?
I will not name any tool.
We're not naming
Um,
tools today. Paul. This is a community event. Thank you, Provar, for sponsoring, but we're not naming tools. We're not naming tools.
Yeah, but why it happens is, I'm not sure exactly why it happens, but I can tell you that there are a lot of times I go in and I realize that we're doing stuff that are just not benefiting us, right? And I think some of the times they realize, but at that point they're too far in to adjust it, because it will take quite a bit of refactoring, and then it's just allowed to go on and on and on. So I think that would maybe be my number one.
Okay.
A few more that I have though is, and I guess I've spoken about these, so but let me say them anyways, and I'll move on to some other ones. But definitely keeping up with page objects, having robust selectors. So this is a great one, having robust selectors. So a lot of times I see persons just have selectors that are, like a long selector that just goes directly to the element. But you need to have a very robust selector. You need to have selectors that maybe uses IDs, right? You need to have selectors that uses classes. And in a lot of cases, there might not be any IDs or classes, right? So then I think you have to look over to attributes, ensure that you have certain attributes that you're looking at on the element. So you identify the elements, ensure to see how you can get it unique. If you need multiple elements, you work out your selector properly. But a lot of times, if the selector is not good, you'll have a lot of inconsistency in your test automation in terms of the runs. So you'll have times when it fails and when it actually works, or it just breaks after each time based on, the application updating. This comes into play when you have like tables. Tables usually have like randomly generated IDs and stuff. So you have to go outside of just the IDs and classes and look at attributes, look at types of stuff that are on the element, and see how you can use those. So that would be my number two.
Give me your number three at a high level. I'm here for
Number
all.
three, I guess very independent tests. I've spoken about that before, so I don't want to elaborate too much on that, but have independent tests because it will definitely help you out in the long run. And if a test fails, you don't want test failing because of the previous one failing or one before failing. You also don't want to have dependent tests because it's going to restrict you from doing parallel tests, right?
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And our favorite Julia, who I know doesn't want to say anything, but Julia, you made a great comment in the chat. You don't have to put your camera on, obviously, Wayne. We love you. But would you be open to verbalizing what you just said in the chat?
Yeah, sure. So I said that Orane made a really great point about companies having a tool that may not be the best fit. And sometimes companies do that because they've already purchased the tool. They have already made that return on investment pitch to management. They've spent this amount of money on it. So it's hard for them to now pivot and say, oh, but there's this better tool. They probably won't get that sign off because we've invested so much money already. So you go in and you're just stuck with that tool that they have that may not be the best solution.
Yeah.
I do. All right. So I do have two more that I would like to add.
Yes.
All right. Oh my God, don't tell me I forgot. So so a lot of times, I can't remember.
We call them boomerang thoughts. They'll come back to you. Do y'all hear his brilliant brain working right now? Because I can hear it.
Okay, yeah. So we want to have, all right, sorry about that. So we definitely want to have visibility in terms of the team. So a lot of times I see where like QA persons are not given the time to allocate to like test automation, manual testing. A lot of times like the dev team is way larger than the QA team, right? And you definitely need to have a nice dev to QA ratio. But some of these are caused by just lack of visibility. So we need to definitely ensure that the different tasks that a QA is doing is specified on the board. It has description, it has all of what needs to be there, just to ensure that the other part of the team, like the external team outside of, well, it's same team, but just all of the team knows exactly what is happening, what needs to be done from test automation, and knows that it's not just like, it's not magic, right? So it does take a lot of time. And of course, it even takes more time than manual testing in the beginning to actually get test automation up and running. And then from there is then it where it will save time in the long run. So it doesn't necessarily save time in the beginning, but you're preparing yourself, you're setting yourself up for success, right? So you need to ensure that there's that great visibility so that persons can know exactly what you're working on, and you're not just there saying, you're working on this task to create test automation for the profile page or the login page, and persons are saying like, I thought test automation should be fast. Yeah.
No, that's
So that
really,
is definitely a big one.
that's really, really good. Really good. Tara, you were going to say something. I saw you.
Oh, I was just going to say, Orane, you're speaking to my heart right there. I think a lot of times we've always thought that automation is just magical and it just happens, and it takes a lot of work. I love that she's mentioned that.
Yeah, definitely takes a lot of work.
It's real, but and there's also something else here too, though, Orane, because now we're talking about the do's and the don'ts of test automation. And I think, not the most technical queen on the block here, y'all. Recovering social worker, just so we're all crystal. But I've learned a lot in my time getting into test automation from, two previous vendor tools that are, they're good. The number one thing that I've learned from being a stage mom, think Chris Jenner meets Ruthless Talent Agent for developers and engineers, is that it's creating a framework of influence, because you may have inherited a solution that you didn't want. You didn't want it. Now you have it. Now you're costing your company, time and energy, and you're also getting impacted by yourself. You're like, I didn't want this. I inherited it, right? Now we're locked into a year-long contract. Like, help. And the number one thing that I've learned from all of these different leaders is it's influence. It's creating a framework. And there is an amazing, amazing automation engineer, Savannah Goodman. I will tag you. I love you. She is just absolutely incredible. And she came up with a framework, and it was, we call it TVF: trust, to your point earlier, visibility, right? And flexibility. TVF. And I've stuck by that. And there is a question in here, Orane. What would you add for these leaders that have inherited a solution that they didn't want? How would you help them build their own toolkit for influence?
Okay.
We're going off script, y'all.
Ooh. All right. So you have inherited something that you really don't want. You're not sure how it will be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, right? So the first thing I would say is, don't mark out the fact that you might switch completely from what you have inherited, right? Because sometimes the ROI is just better to switch. But in a case where you've inherited something, maybe, the test automation that you went on a project with, it's out of date, or, they're using an old framework, etc. The first thing I would think you'd want to do is just to identify if what you have inherited, if it will match the current goals that you want from your test automation. So let's say you have a certain goal that you want to achieve. Maybe you want to achieve a certain pass rate or run regression in a certain time, because test automation is great for regression. then maybe you want to run it against certain platforms. You need to ensure that the framework that you have inherited has the ability to do that, or has some integration that you can integrate with different tools to also achieve that, right? Because if that cannot be done, if it's just not possible, then you might as well like try to transition from now, instead of like investing more time into something that will not give you the result that you're looking for. So just ensure that the framework and what you have inherited can actually meet your goals that you want to achieve. And
no, that was really, really good. I know your thoughts still going on here. I've got loud coworkers. God bless them. I'm not in my usual setting, y'all. I do also know that we have to wrap up shortly. I want to say for anyone, again, if there's anything that really stuck out to you, please tag Orane. Do Provar testing, just because I can only monitor so much. And we want to say thank you to Provar for supporting these types of continuous learning opportunities. Yeah, I work here, but I'm also a community builder. And I wouldn't have this kind of job if it wasn't for Provar supporting this. And I'm not here to like be marketing, but please tag Orane and Provar and let us know what's one of those key takeaways that you learned today from Orane, for a chance to win some. Tara, how do you say it? One more time.
I don't know why you like it so much. I say swag.
It's good. It's good. I'm meeting coworkers in a second. What I will say though is, so lastly, rapid fire, Orane. And this is like, I love this. So what's a book you're reading right now?
I'm actually not reading a book right now, but I am reading a few articles. Also, I think Julia did an article recently that I actually saw, and it does match back with a lot of what we discussed today. I think it's a great article, and I think it goes a bit more in depth where you can learn about some of the things that we spoke about today. I think the name of it is like 9 tips to speed up your test automation, or something like that. But I can
drop it. Can you drop it in the meetup group? Don't drop it in the Zoom. How many times have you been on a call and people drop information in a Zoom and I'm like, no, I don't have it. So drop it in the meetup group. That would be great. Please do. Julia is also brilliant. I've got just 2 more rapid fires. I know we're going a little bit over, y'all. And so anyone who's watching this YouTube recording, God bless you. Thank you for your service. My follow-up question to you, favorite TV show that you're binging right now?
not sure how familiar you guys would be with this, but I'm currently binging the Top Boy series. It's a bit dangerous, but it's what I'm feeling for these days.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna Google that right now. All right. So last question for you, and we're gonna wrap. You're trapped in a room for the rest of your life and you can't get out. It's a chateau in your favorite country, Paris, and you can't get out. And you're listening to an album, and you have to listen to one album from the rest of your life. You have everything taken care of for you, caviar, oysters, everything. You get one album for the rest of your life. It's on repeat. What's that album you pick and why?
Wow, that's a difficult one.
You can give me 2. I'll give you 2.
Do I have to choose an album, or could I choose like the silence?
No, it's not an option. Give me an album.
Album. I would. I'd maybe choose 50 Cent, maybe.
Yes, yes, but not Super Bowl performance. Other than that, but yes. Which album? Which album?
The album. I don't. The name of the album.
Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah, that one.
I see you. I see. We're very aligned. I love this for us. Okay. Okay. Now I see why we're friends. I see why we're friends. And Julia, the best. The best. We do, though, have to wrap this up. I wanted to say for everyone who's watching, Keith and Julia and Volkan and Penny, who had to go, and like Jesper, like, y'all here are just the best. I love y'all so much. And I want to say, like, again, please, if there's one lesson you took away from Orane, please. Oh, that's Rajan. I love you, Rajan. If there's one lesson that you learned from all of this, please tag Orane, his social media. It's Google, y'all. You can find him. We drop in the chat below. Share one thing, tag Provar. I love this leader so much. And so I hope that you all enjoyed the session today. If you love the session, my name is Tristan Lombard. And if you hated it, my name is Tara Walton.
Ouch.
Oh, that's so mean. I thought the album question was cruel, but that takes the cake.
Wow.
I'm the worst boss. Keith, I adore you, friend. I've got some good stuff coming for you soon. But round of applause, y'all, for Orane. Like, give the emojis, give the praise, like all of it. Orane, you're just the best. We adore you. This was so much fun. Thank you for letting us celebrate you. We adore you, and just you're the best. And so for everyone who is watching, we adore you. Stay well, stay blessed, and remember that the do's and the don'ts of test automation, they always start with the human, and that's you. All right. I love you, friend. We're going to kiki again offline. If you have any additional questions, drop them in the meetup group. Until next time, ta-ta.
Thank you guys for this. Appreciate it.
Always. Oh, goodbye.
Okay,
Bye,
see ya.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Oh, goodbye.